We're on. Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of the Look into the Mirror series. Some of you, of course, have been regular here, so you're familiar with the intention of the series. The intention is largely to look at creating dialogues and hopefully going forward action based on those dialogues in a manner that promotes inner truth and reconciliation. We've heard of TNR, truth and reconciliation, as a peace building mechanism in different parts of the world, operating as a systemic intervention, as an external intervention. The way we are looking at it here is to look at it as an inner intervention. How do I change the system in me in a manner that I face up to my truths, my reality, and reconcile with things that I need to reconcile with, things that may not be easy to reconcile with at times, and in the process cause inside out systemic change. Once I shift myself, hopefully I can also have conversations with people around me, and that might eventually create a ripple effect. That's the hope and intention behind this series. And in the last two conversations, we've touched upon aspects of caste and how that operates in India. We've looked at partition and its impact, and how we continue to live and, in a way, fester the wound of partition even now through the stories and the narratives that we continue to build around it. Today is a subject that is often ignored, often not spoken about, and sometimes blatantly denied, although it exists very starkly in our face in several parts of the country, which is around how people from the northeastern states are treated in so-called mainland India. And while I've personally seen as a bystander how this seems to impact colleagues and friends, there seems to be really little conversation around it, and it plays out in many, many ways. For example, it plays out in terms of the interest shown by people in this conversation, right? I mean, as compared to other conversations, there is a sense of saying, no, this doesn't really exist. I've seen colleagues in corporate organizations, which means we're talking about largely educated individuals in the environment, being very blatantly judged, assumptions being made against them without any grounds. And again, there are no comments made about why or what is done. So here is where I thought this conversation is important. And for those of you who are listening to this later on our social media channels, I do hope you pick up the thread with your family, with your friends, and look at holding dialogues in your own inner circles in a way that we can have a conscious dialogue around the racism that exists within India. And to discuss this, we have Sangeeta. Dr. Sangeeta Kakuti is, of course, a friend, a classmate from my Peace Fellowship back in 2013. She's many, many things. If you've read about her introduction, she teaches history and human rights. She's been a television anchor with Doordarshan, which is India's national television channel. She's been with Doordarshan for close to a couple of decades, if I'm right. She's a drama artist with All India Radio. She's, as far as I know, she's translated at least one book from Assamese to English. So yeah, a lovely person who, as you see right now, manages to turn out absolutely gorgeous no matter what the occasion and where. So that's Sangeeta. And just before we started, Sangeeta and I was speaking, and we realized today is also the anniversary of a person who is considered, in a way, the father of the Assamese ethnicity. So Sangeeta, maybe why don't you start with sharing about that? It almost feels like it's a day of blessing to be able to discuss have this conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rukmini. It's an honor to be here, and I feel really privileged that you decided to invite me into this platform. A very good morning to the participants here. And because you mentioned about this auspicious day for the Assamese people, today is definitely a very auspicious day. As I said, this is the birth, uh, anniversary of, as you mentioned, the father of Assamese identity, I should say, Srimanta Shonkordev, Mahapurukh Srimanta Shonkordev, we use that term. And, he was a saint, a peer, a reformer, a social reformer who brought in the Neo-Vaishnavite movement into Assam. Okay, he was a great Sanskrit scholar par excellence, and but he is known for for bringing in the Neo Vaishnavite movement into Assam, and the beauty of that movement that he brought into Assam was to bring in the harmony of the people. Because we are talking about the 13th century when he did this. We are talking about the 13th century. So when he did this, the entire the socio-political condition of Assam was in the doldrums. So he tried to bring about a reform in every aspect. He tried to bring about harmony and peace into the society. And for that, some of his contribution, there was not one field in which he was not there. He is the first, he's the peer of the drama in Assamese, in the Assamese, in history, He's the person who started drama. He was a musician, he was a dancer, he was a literature, he was everything rolled into one. So, if someone wants to know about Srimanta Shonkordev, it'll be very difficult for me to, talk about him in this less space. So I would just request you to, there are n number of books available on him. And as I was pointing out to Rukmini just before we're having a very informal conversation, please, you must remember, I'm not talking about Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya was someone else. I'm talking about Shankar Deva, Srimanta Shankardev from Assam. Okay. So I would suffice with that, I guess, Rukmini, because this in itself can become a huge, a topic to talk about, the kind of reforms that he brought into the society. And I would be very happy to share with you, Rukmini. I have done my PhD in the Mobile Theatre of Assam. I don't know whether you have any idea. The Mobile Theatre is unique to Assam. Okay. And when we're talking about drama, as I said, drama was first started by Srimanta Shonkordev in Assam.
Yes, I remember you working on your thesis while we were doing the Peace Fellowship. So,
yes.
Yeah, it's a lovely connection to make with this person as well. So, given that we're a very small circle today, so usually the format is that the first half of the conversation is largely about the speaker sharing their perspective, and then we go into breakout rooms. Given that we're a small unit today, my suggestion is we stay here throughout the duration of the call and make it more interactive, and
absolutely
can toss questions back and forth amongst all of us. So nevertheless, I would invite you, Sangeeta, to start off in terms of what are your thoughts on the topic at hand, and perhaps your personal experiences if you'd like to share.
Absolutely. Okay. Rukmini, when you contacted me and I was trying to, kind of build up my discourse, that how am I going to present, what am I going to present? And I was looking through, I was surfing the net also. I was looking into some books also, what, aspects I should present. I came across this wonderful paper, and it has been written by someone from the Northeast. And that's why I felt, this person has echoed my feelings and thoughts, which I wanted to present before you. So I must give credit to him, and I must, mention his name. This I have taken from the Journal of Development Practice. It's a peer-reviewed international journal of experiences from the field. It's a peer-reviewed international journal which has the ISSN, tag. And the paper itself is Northeast and Chinky: Countenances of Racism in India. So I think it's bang on with the topic that we are discussing today. And it's been written by a person by the name of Kame Samson. And Kame Samson, let me say, it's a PhD. He's a postdoctorate fellow in the Indian Council of Social Science Research. And the paper that he has written, Rukmini, it's everything which I wanted to share. I thought that no, I must give credit to this person and share the thoughts and views which have been presented here. And so I'll begin with the term Northeast. Okay, first of all, that itself is a misnomer. There is nothing called Northeast. When the term is again and again used, Northeasterner, there's nothing called Northeasterner. We are 8 different states here. And believe me, there is no cultural homogeneity in those 8 different states. We are 8 different states with we have different cultures, we have distinct political aspirations. There are, various ethnic groups in the region who have their exclusive tales of origin and migration. I don't know how many people I hate to use the word mainland India, because, when we grew up, I have done my entire education from Kendriya Vidyalaya. I mean, it's very difficult for me not to think of myself as an Indian in the first place. I mean, so you can imagine the hurt that we feel, the pain that we feel that when we are, looked at as we have landed up from somewhere else, it's very painful that way. I would like to just share this because I hope whoever is listening, someone who is not conversant with the northeastern part of India, I mean, I would like to request you to please don't use the term Northeasterner. When you're referring to a person from the Northeast, be specific about his state. If when I'm referring to people from the West, I don't call you Western Indians, right? I would refer to someone from Gujarat. I will refer to someone from Maharashtra specifically. Those states have specific identities. We also have specific identities. Please respect that. All of us have, beautiful histories which have unfortunately not been shared much. That is one of the lacunae which I would like to come later on in our education system. As I said that when I was growing up, because I have done my studies from Kendriya Vidyalaya, and in our books, we studied right from the Chola and the Chera dynasty. We studied about Shivaji. We studied about the north, about the right from the Delhi Sultanates to what was happening in Kashmir in the ancient times. We studied the Harappan civilization. But what about the northeast of India? There's nothing in the books. That chapter is complete. That entire portion is missing. So what else do you expect from people? How do you, because you're not even sensitizing them about that part, that there is that part of India also. When you look at our course curriculums everywhere, I would just, I mean, I'm not feeling proud when I'm sharing this because it still hurts. When I was doing my first refresher course in JNU, that was in 2004, we were quite a big batch from the northeastern part of India. And we found it so demeaning that not a single class was taught. There was not one single resource person, not one single topic pertaining to the northeast of India. This was a refresher course on history, and it felt as if India ended in Bengal. Bengal ke is taraf kuch bhi nahi hai. Khatam. Bengal mein hi aake sab kuch khatam ho jata hai. So we even kind of protested against this. We said that we do have, very eminent resource people, that why can't you invite them to give, presentations here? I remember we had almost an argument and a fight with the authorities, and we boycotted 1 or 2 classes on that. So, it hurts that way. And I would just, for the record, I mean, I don't know how many people have this idea that when you look, I was talking about the 8 different states, because we will have to come into the concept of looks here. It'll come definitely because it all pertains to the Mongoloid looks of the people of Northeast India. You must understand that, in Assam, we have 14 recognized plain tribes, 15 recognized hill tribes, and 16 scheduled caste communities. That's only in Assam. Okay. You go to Arunachal Pradesh, you have 20 scheduled tribes, each with their subgroups. Okay. Arunachal Pradesh had become a union territory in 1972. It became a full-fledged state in 1987. You go to Nagaland, where you have 16 major tribes, and Nagaland celebrates its statehood day. It attained statehood in 1963. Of course, we all know that Nagaland still has the issue of their identity, and that movement is still going on with the government of India. Manipur has 33 recognized tribes, which, fall either under the Naga or Kuki, the two different conglomerates of the Manipur tribals. Manipur became a state in 1972. Mizoram, which has 5 major and 11 minor tribes. Mizoram once upon a time was known as the Lushai Hills district of Assam. That also became a union territory in 1972, and it became a state in 1987, the 23rd state of India, so as to say. Meghalaya has 3 major tribes, and there are many minority tribes there. Meghalaya became a state in 1972. Tripura became a state in 1972. It has 19 groups. So you see, when you're talking about migration, which has been, which has been there since time immemorial, so you have a lot of people. When you look at the geography, I mean, I again find it very funny that, I have many friends from the northern or other parts of India who know the map of America so well, who know the map of New Zealand so well, but they do not know the map of India well at all. They don't know the borders of the Northeast, which international borders are there, where we share, so naturally, the migrations which took place in the northeastern part of India came from Southeast Asia because of their affinity. You look at that position, we had tribes which were originally there. And when you talk about the Caucasians in the Northeast, Assam has a huge, section of Caucasians also, so as to say, you have what is known as the Kalitas. These people had come from northern India. The person I was mentioning to you just now, Srimanta Honkode, when you look at his historicity, his ancestors had come from Kannauj. Okay, his ancestors had come from Kannauj into this place. So when you look at Assam, I'm talking in reference to Assam, this entire territory was a tribal belt consisting of the ethnic indigenous people. Hinduism per se had come so late into these areas. Okay, these were tribal societies. Okay, as I said that we have this exclusive tales and origin and migrations. Now, I would like to refer to one eminent scholar from Assam. His name is Sanjeev Barua. And he has written this wonderful book, it's Durable Disorder, Understanding the Politics of Northeast India, where Sanjeev Barua had mentioned that ethnic groups in the region do not share any collective historical memory or collective consciousness. So as to say that we have our distinct, histories, we have a distinct collection of, consciousness. So in this sense, it is more appropriate to use the pluralistic analytical concept, of each state rather than Northeast as a whole. It's not a homogeneous thing at all. When you say Northeast, it's not like, all people do the same thing, all people eat the same kind of food. It's wrong. Now, when you look at this was actually, why this word came to be used. It was, in fact, originally, this is a very colonial term. I would like to bring a teacher of history. I mean, we have to look at things from the historical perspective always. So the Northeast is originally a very colonial term. In the post-colonial era, it is neither a political unit nor a cultural domain. The idea of Bharat or Hindustan or India, it conventionally evokes a sense of identification, predominantly with people who are conventionally grouped as Aryans or as Dravidians, and it often excludes the Mongoloid groups. That comes automatically, it excludes the Mongoloid groups. Mongoloid Indians and even the whole region where they live in are often racially associated with the Mongoloid looks of other Asian countries. Physical features of the Mongoloid Indians are readily available, very phenotypical features and for differentiation and discrimination. That leads to discrimination. As I was talking about the idea of Northeast, when you look at it for very, very close, you closely observe it from the colonial days to the contemporary days, and this has been very beautifully analyzed by Sampson in his paper, that you can broadly divide it into three phases, the three Northeast of the three phases: colonial Northeast, strategic Northeast, and racial Northeast. Now, when you're talking about colonial Northeast, you will see that the Northeast its origin is in the colonial administrative lexicon. It was originally in Alexander Mackenzie's memorandum on the Northeast frontier of Bengal, which was prepared in 1869, where Mackenzie had mentioned that the Northeast frontier of Bengal, please listen to this term, the Northeast frontier of Bengal is a term used sometimes to denote a boundary line and sometimes more generally to describe a tract. When you're talking about tract, it embraces the whole of the hill ranges, north, east, and south of the Assam Valley, as well as the western slopes of the great mountain system lying between Bengal and independent Burma. Okay, so thus, what we very erroneously now refer to as Northeast was a tract with reference to Bengal, which had been the capital of British India, that is Calcutta, until 1911. And from the capital was shifted from Calcutta to Delhi. Okay. Now, the tract which has been mentioned in the memorandum of Mackenzie, Northeast frontier of Bengal, is to the northeast of Bengal. Okay. But when you examine it in respect of Delhi, once the capital had been shifted to Delhi, the tract is no longer to the northeast of Delhi. Okay. But it is still referred to as Northeast India. That name, it's stuck from Mackenzie's memorandum. So you see, the colonial Northeast, when you're talking about the colonial Northeast region, was very separately administered. It's true. The administration was very separate under the colonial rulers. A minimum interaction was allowed with outsiders. In fact, people from colonial Northeast region, they settled in the plains and the hills. They were administered separately by the British rulers. And the British allowed the Christian missionaries in the hills, but they discouraged the missionaries in the valley where Hinduism was influential, and it was patronized by the kings in the plain areas. So that's why when you see today in the hill states of the Northeast, you will find that Christianity had become so popular because it was patronized by the colonial rulers. And in those days itself, the Christian missionaries were allowed into the hills, but in the plains, Hinduism was much more prevalent because it was encouraged by the kings. And you all have heard about the colonial legacy of the Inner Line Regulation of 1873, which is still a burning issue in the contemporary period. So, that is how, the name Northeast actually stuck. But when you look at, from the present context, the word Northeast has no meaning, so as to say, as I mentioned. And then when you talk about the strategic Northeast, because of course strategically this entire region has importance, because unlike other parts of the country, the Northeast, it holds a very important position from a strategic point of view, as these states, They share their borders with countries like Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, China. Okay. And please let me point out this. I was talking to Rukmini a few minutes earlier. We do not share a border with Nepal. Most of the times, people from Northeast are asked, "Are you Nepali?" No, we are not Nepali. We do not even share a border with Nepali. Bihar shares a border with Nepal. Okay, for the information of people. Okay, so you see, uh, it is just it's a very institutionalized outlook of the state towards this region, that nurtures and promotes the alienation of the people, okay, of the region, from the idea of Indian and the idea of India. So therefore it sustains the idea of the region as troubled and disturbed. Yes, we have had insurgency problems, but you must understand that why and where those problems came from, why those problems surfaced, the kind of neglect, the kind of, we always call it the stepmotherly treatment, from the center, that has largely been the cause of this kind of, feelings that were nurtured. Now, let me come to the most interesting portion of this discourse, which has been pointed out by Kame. And that is, yeah, when we talk about strategic importance, yes, I must mention another thing also, that the huge amount of military presence here, because this entire region has been, marked as a disturbed area. So, that led to, you all have heard about the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, right? Uh, it has been pointed out by many that the structural alienation of the people of the region during the colonial period and the excessive military presence in the post-independence era, it certainly percolates down to discrimination in the present days. When you cite the opinion of Outlook, BBC Monitoring, it attributed to the isolation of the region of India to violence and conspicuous presence of the Indian troops. The region, in view of the heavy military presence, even during peacetime, it appears to be earmarked for military training zones with undeclared wars against non-state armed groups and several civilian casualties. So I guess, that plays upon your psyche also, the kind of being, alienated, the kind of being looked down upon, the kind of being, I was in a discourse, I don't remember where, there was this girl, very young girl from Manipur, and she made a very, it really touched me. She was in Bangalore, and she said that when she had gone to Bangalore for some time, she was feeling very, I do not remember her exact words, but I remember one sentence. And she was enjoying with her friends and all, but she said that something was missing. And then it seems one particular day, she saw a huge convoy of the military. And then suddenly she felt at home, because they are so used to seeing the military in their home. The military presence is so much a part of their life that in Bangalore, she never realized it, that unconsciously she was missing the military presence. And it she didn't she could not pinpoint one she was missing. And then she sees this military convoy, and then she says, I suddenly felt at home. you know she made fun of it, and we had a laugh, but you look at the sad implication of this, the sentence or the feeling that she was trying to point out. Now I'll come to the racial Northeast. There's another book by a person by the name of Subir Bhomik, where it's called Troubled Periphery, The Crisis of Northeast India, where Mr. Bhomik has observed the Northeast is where India looks less and less India and more like the highlands of Southeast Asia. Well, I personally, I would not totally agree to this in a full sense of the term. But yes, it is true to some extent. It is definitely true to some extent, because there is, you see, definitely a propensity amongst fellow Indians outside the Northeast region to perceive that the region is dominated by people with Mongoloid features. Yes, 100% true. And many Indians from outside the region deridingly associate Mongoloid Indians with Chinese, and the Northeast is very callously associated with Oriental looks and therefore racialized. It's as if it's a sin to have Mongoloid features. That mindset, that Mongoloid Indians are often mocked and abused racially. You have these names: Chinki, Chini, Nepali, Bahadur, Chinese. You know, these are so commonly used to call the Mongoloid Indians. No one is asked that where are you from. No one is asked. Where are you from is not a question which is even, considered to be asking. They are often directly asked. I have had that experience myself, when I was in college and we had gone for excursion to different parts, we were in Bangalore. I was wearing the traditional mekhla chadar. I have a very, most people say I look more like a Bengali than anyone from Northeast, there was this shopkeeper I remember, and he looked like an educated person. It was not like he was a completely uneducated type of a person. I still remember it was a huge shop in Bangalore, and we were shopping there. And suddenly he was looking, he looked at me, "What are you wearing?" So I explained it to them, and he was like, "Ye Assam kahan hai? Nepal mein hai?" That was his question. And my good fortune was there was a map of India hanging there. I brought down that map from the wall and I actually pointed it to him. Assam, ye hai bhaiya, ye hai Assam. Aapko malum hai, there is a place called Northeast in India ke map mein. So this is Assam. Ab Assam ka chai ka naam to suna hoga. Assam tea is famous all over the world. One horn rhino is famous all over the world. लेकिन आपको आसाम के बारे में नहीं पता. I've given such a good piece of my mind. I swear, I still remember that day. But anyway, so this happens. We have had that kind of experience in our own lives also. But I have to say this, that I have a huge amount of friends in Delhi because maybe we have had the privilege of working in such platforms which have allowed us to have good friends and have with broad minds who wanted to know about us, who had the I should say the background uh, of trying to understand people. So my friends, people like Rukmini, and I have a huge lot of friends from in different parts of India, uh, have a fairly good understanding of what the Northeast is about. But of course, I would say that's a very minuscule group of people when you're talking in numbers, when you're talking in percentage. But when you're talking in the general terms, when you're talking in terms of in a general society, that is really lacking. One thing which I would like to point out, I was going through some statistics here, is that between 2005 and 2013, over 2 lakh people from the Northeast migrated to Delhi, and more than 86% people faced discrimination. I mean, it's been conducted. A survey was conducted. I forgot to note down the who did it actually, and it has been found that Delhi is the worst offender. In Delhi, the discrimination is the worst. And it's very funny that some even very platforms which matter. For example, when you look at Bollywood, even there you'll find an apathy towards the Northeast of India. When they're looking for exotic locations, then they come to Shillong or maybe places in the Northeast, because you must remember that Madhuri Lake from the movie Koila. It's now it's known as the Madhuri Lake. It's not called the Madhuri Lake. It has a very beautiful ethnic name, and I, for one, I really feel very angry that why should it be called Madhuri Lake? I mean, it had a beautiful name, and they should stick to that name, And so that's the. But how many movies have you seen in Bollywood which are totally rooted in the Northeast? Any story from the Northeast, totally rooted in the Northeast, is about the Northeast. Yes, we have. One or two biopics like maybe Mary Com, and Mary Com was played by Priyanka Chopra of all people. But anyway, I mean, I guess that added to the lady's fame. Anyway, let's look at the positive side also. But those kind of apathies are definitely there. Are platforms which can make a difference. You have that kind of it's missing there. And the funny part is that when you have protests in America about the black people being, targeted, and the recent incidences we've had, we saw that many of our celebrities were very vocal about, human rights and all. What happens when that kind of incidences happened about, with the northeastern people? I've never seen any celebrity, being vocal about this kind of thing. Nothing, because those kind of incidences are brushed under the carpet as very individualistic incidences. No one, people don't even acknowledge it. It's not even considered to be a problem. So that's the kind of apathy that you see. And unfortunately, being a person of history, we suddenly come across some things, and we look at some things very historically. Even when you, with due respect to Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore, look at our national anthem. Where is the Northeast in the national anthem? It's not there. But with due respect to him, I heard someone, because I've not read it myself, I don't know. I heard someone, a scholar, mentioning that in the original lyrics of the national anthem, when he had written it, it was never written as a national anthem initially. It was taken as a national anthem later. In the original lyrics, apparently the East had been mentioned. But later on, that portion was edited because of the time factor. Now, whoever edited it, decided not to give much importance to the feelings of the people of the East, so I don't know what difference it would have made if the national anthem would have been a few seconds longer with reference to the East. So naturally, people come across, you come across such questions that in the national anthem, the Northeast is not even mentioned. The East per se is not even there. So that also adds to your, what should I say, to your hurt and to your anger, how you are marginalized. uh, Rupini, I really feel that, yes, I am not even trying to refer to the huge instances of violence which have taken place. There are n number of cases, and people have in fact been killed also. In 2014, you had that very famous case of the Arunachali boy Nido Tanian. He was killed in Lajpat Nagar only because of his looks. He was a student who was studying in, I think he was studying in Lovely University in Punjab, and he had gone to Delhi to, during his vacations with his friends. And there, when people commented about his looks, he answered back. That was his greatest, folly. And this guy was beaten to death. What, I mean, how far will you go with this hatred? You know, and n number of, and now with the pandemic, we have come across so many cases of people from the northeast being called corona. People are being called coronavirus, because we have so many cases of girls being, there was this incident where a 25-year-old woman from Manipur, she was spat upon. Someone spat on her, when she stepped out to buy groceries with her friend in the Delhi University area. And the man who was riding a scooter, in fact, called her Corona. In Pune, a young woman also from Manipur was teased by men in the same way. So people are refusing them, and a huge number of people from the Northeast are being asked to vacate their accommodations in different parts of India. I mean, it's so funny that, you do not even have that perception that these people are not Chinese, for heaven's sake, because, the coronavirus is apparently, there's the story that it came from Wuhan, it's a Chinese product. So suddenly the people from Northeast are being targeted. They are being called Corona, they are being called Chinese, they're being chased out of their houses, even the supplies are being stopped to them. Can you imagine that kind of atrocities when people have to go through that? How do you expect people to have you know I don't know, how do you expect people to have good? And these people who they go to Delhi, they go to the different parts of India, because it's true that in the Northeast we do not have that kind of facilities, either of education or for employment. Okay, so you have to, they have to, because these are people who have a dream about their future, people who have an ambition to make their future good. They have to go out in search of livelihood. Uh, if a person from the west can go to the north, if a person from the south can go to the north, why can't a person from the northeast go to other parts of India and look for a livelihood and live a dignified and respected life? I mean, there was, because of such incidences, you can just click into the Google and you will see so many such stories that come across. And there was this MP from Arunachal Pradesh who had actually, he had proposed a private bill, the compulsory teaching of Northeast culture in educational institutions. That was a bill which he had proposed in 2017 by MP by the name of Ninong Ering from Arunachal Pradesh. He had proposed this, the compulsory teaching of Northeast culture. I think it makes sense, because as I said, because when you don't know anything about a certain culture, you don't know anything about people, your bias grows. Naturally, your bias grows, and I guess people do not have the propensity to learn from their own. So if this kind of education is incorporated into our school books, into our history books. I'm a teacher of history, Rukmini, and I have been teaching students about Bismarck. I have been teaching students about Napoleon for ages. Even I do not have a paper in my university that teaches our students about the Northeast per se. Yes, I do have papers on Assam history, because I work under the Guwahati University. I guess every university has papers pertaining to their own tribes and own cultures. But when you're talking about, uh, when you're talking about broadening the horizon, when you're talking about broadening harmony, I guess it becomes important to read about each other. That becomes very important, isn't it? So I think education right from the school level, you teach them young, catch them young. That is very important, to inculcate a feeling that northeast of India is definitely a part of India. At one point of time, yes, I will agree that the entire northeast was a hotspot of insurgency and militancy. But now things have really come down. Things have really improved. Today, when you come here, I can guarantee you will not feel that you are anywhere away from India. It's Northeast is a beautiful place. The whole of Northeast, the 8 states have so much to offer in terms of culture, in terms of history, in terms of heritage. I would like to invite all of you, my friends out there from different parts of India, to come here, at least see what people have. People always plan holidays to go abroad. यहाँ पे देखने के लिए बहुत कुछ है. आप लोग आइए, एक बार देखिए, you enjoy the Northeast yourself, and then you will be able to make out that that fear, that feeling of fear that you have towards the Northeast. It's completely unfounded. It's completely wrong. Northeast of India is very much a part of India. Yes, when you go to the the political history, you will come across so many ups and downs. You'll come across so many different aspects. That apart, when you're talking about the people, the yeah. And another thing which I wanted to point out here is that, Rukmini, that when you're talking in terms of women, it's a fact that India is a patriarchal society. 100% India is a patriarchal society, and we feel that the effect and impacts of patriarchy everywhere. But you see, I especially wanted to point this out because the Northeast, essentially being originally a tribal society, the position of women comparatively have always been better. I'm very proud to say that in the Northeast, we do not have the dowry system. We don't have the dowry system, okay? In Assam, I'm an Assamese and I can vouch for myself that in Assam, the bride's entire trousseau is presented from the groom's side. Whatever, all her dresses, her jewelry, everything comes from the groom side. And this is not demanded. It's a ritual, it's a ritual. And from the bride side also, they give gifts to the groom. Nothing is demanded. If you come across stories like of dowry deaths in Assam, I'll tell one thing, that evil spreads faster than good things. So there may be certain people who have, now tried to, inculcate such practices, but this is not a part or not a tradition of the Northeast. You go to the Northeastern other tribes, you'll come to know about how the bride price is paid, by the groom to marry a girl. In certain communities, a groom has to live with the bride's family for a certain period of time to prove to her family that he is capable of being her husband, that he will be able to look after her. That's the kind of, society that we have here. Yes, I'm not saying that we do not feel the brunt of patriarchy. We do. Many of you must have read that in Meghalaya, the Khasi society is a matrilineal society. Please remember, it's matrilineal, not matriarchy. It's matrilineal. The lineage goes through the mother, but yes, decisions are taken by men, by the uncle, by the other brothers and stuff like that. So it's a matrilineal society, not a matriarchal society. Uh, Patriarchy is definitely there, but having said that, women have enjoyed, I guess, a comparatively, when you look at historically, comparatively more liberal kind of a, what should I say, atmosphere. The kind of stories that we hear from places like Haryana, that where the way women are dominated, what the Khaps do, it's unimaginable here. It's simply unimaginable. I'm not trying to compare per se, but yes, I mean that's the reality. So when you see the Northeast girls, wearing clothes, which are different from what the Delhi girls wear, it's not because they are trying to flaunt themselves. It's not because they're trying to say that we are available. It's the kind of society that they have grown up in. You know, no, it's the kind of liberal society that grew up in. So it's not, they're not trying to give a message that we are available. It's that how they grew up. So definitely their concept of fashion is very different from a girl who grew up in Haryana or Delhi. Rupini, do you remember how, I was so impressed that when we were in Bangkok, you see, Bangkok is famous for its tourism industry. And when we looked around, when we traveled, we were in Bangkok for 3 whole months, and we traveled in all the public transports. I was so, alert, and I was so aware. I would always try to see how the boys behave towards the girls. And I was so impressed that girls used to wear such revealing clothes, shorts and, this tank tops. Not one single incidence of eve teasing, not one single incident of, lewd remark. Never saw anything in those 3 months. So, if people can grow that kind of a culture, why can't we? Why cannot we? I mean, I just fail to understand, because, those very people who are so protective about their own sisters, about their own cousins, they go out and they are the perpetrators outside with someone else. How can they? I mean, I just cannot understand that. It is beyond me. So I guess it is important. I mean, of course, gender and patriarchy will become a completely different topic now, and it will move out from the topic that we are discussing today. But yes, it's true that discrimination and racism of the Northeastern people, women have to face the brunt of it more. Because Rupini, because when we were beginning this discussion before we went on air, you said that how difficult it is for girls to get accommodation because they are assumed to be tainted in character. Who gave them the right to even, put that brand? I mean, just imagine, just because you have a certain look, you are tainted as being characterless. I mean, this is so, I mean, I have no words to describe this. I really don't know, but I feel that at the end of the day, yes, now the government has been trying to, I guess, put in acts, and there's this certain act which has been brought about, the prevention of. I mean, I don't even remember these acts. I wrote it down so I can share with you that. Yes, that as per the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act, any person committing kind of atrocity against Northeast Indians will be punished under law for 5 years. That's an act which is there, but the act is there. Usko saja ke rakh diya gaya hai, and I mean, I don't know how far it's been implemented, but because, there are numerous cases of harassment, violence, atrocities that are still going on. So I guess, it's not just about the law, at the end of the day, it's about changing the mindset. It's about the proper sensitization. Uh, you know, and these kind of forums, movies, dramas, I guess they play a very important role in that, that really can, have an important impact on the psyche, particularly of young people. Social media would be a very, very, good platform to use this kind of awareness. And I really hope that one day, a day will come that, when people from the Northeast will not be called Chinky, will not be called Chinese, will not be called Nepali. I don't know. I mean, how to end my discourse, but only with this positive note, I guess.
Wow, thank you, Sangeeta. That's a lot to chew on, and I really appreciate the kind of effort put in to gather everything you've gathered and prepared for this. Thank you so much. And yeah, there's several points I want to respond to, and of course also use the remaining 30 minutes for a conversation with everyone that's present here. Um, I remember the first time I had read about the act, the prevention of atrocities against people from the Northeast. I mean, for me, it brought up fear in the sense of the necessity of an act, the necessity of a law in a country to say you will not abuse someone from another part of the country.
Absolutely,
What does it say about
I mean,
us? Right?
that itself is such a negative thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's it's shocking that we're looking at a token law and not really looking at a larger social discourse and dialogue around why is this needed, and not looking at an attempt to change this.
Absolutely.
And also the mono or the sort of unipolar nature of the kind of conversations we have about Northeast, right? I remember recently there was this song had gone viral. I think these three Naga sisters singing a Punjabi song.
Yes.
And
yes, the Tetsuo sisters.
While it was beautiful and they were great artists, we don't see it the other way around. Well, what about a Punjabi trying to sing a Naga song, and that attempt is not even made.
I actually wrote that in my Facebook thing, when I saw this girl singing that Punjabi song, that I said that I'll wait for the day when I see a Punjabi singer singing a Naga song.
Yeah. But that aspiration is not in place, right? Somehow the aspiration is only the other way around, that the migration is out of the Northeast into the rest of the country, and not the other way around. And that's such a loss of opportunity in terms of lifestyle, in terms of perspectives, in terms of a very different philosophy and a way of living. I've got a couple of friends in Arunachal who are trying to work on sort of not so much restoring, I'm not sure what the word for it is, but they're trying to document tribal languages which are going extinct. And so we were having a conversation around it, and they talk about how the language impacts psyche, and it impacts aspirations and the way we connect with the environment and the ecology, right? And how they were speaking about how the word in most of these tribal languages, there is no word for poor. The whole idea of poverty, A word does not exist. The closest equivalent they have is an orphan. And so the idea of wealth as social capital, and not wealth as materialism, seems to be so deeply embedded in the psyche, and that makes the culture so rich in terms of building relationships with their community, with the ecology, and living in sync with the environment. And somehow with the loss of those languages, we're also losing the thought process, we're losing that philosophy and connection with the environment.
Absolutely.
In the process of mainstreaming everything into one idea of India.
You know, Rukmini, because you're talking about this different, the tribes, I would like to share with you that we have this missing tribe in Assam. Okay, they are in the eastern part of Assam, Dhemaji, Majuli. You have heard about Majuli, right? The largest river island in the world. Okay, so Dhemaji, then Lakhimpur, Majuli, that area is inhabited by the missing tribe of Assam. There they have this very beautiful tradition. You know, every person needs to adopt a child in spite of having own children. And I have had my own students, you know, because we get students from all parts of not only just Assam. My college is a beautiful collection of people from the Northeast, you know, and that's why I have a huge collection of beautiful dresses from the Northeast. I ask my students to get me, the beautiful dresses from their particular state, and I buy it from them. And I have a huge collection of the dresses from the Northeast. I love ethnic dresses. I buy it from them. So I'm very proud to say whenever I go abroad, I carry those dresses with me, and I, really flaunt and wear them, and people go gaga over them, that what is this? And they're so curious, to know that where it is from. Anyway, so they have this missing tribe. They have this very beautiful tradition of, that people have to adopt a child because, it bonds, it grows that bond in the community. Just because you have become successful, it's not about, it's not about just improving your own life. It's about improving the life of your community. So have my students, young people, they're not even married, they don't have a job right now in their hand. They have adopted children, because they want to pass on the education to these young ones, who have yet to grow up, who have yet to go out and get their education. So I think it's such a beautiful tradition, and most tribes, they have this, I don't know if you have this in the Naga tribe, they have this, the young men's dormitory. It's known as the Morong. They have the young men's dormitory that at a particular age, the young men have to live in that dormitory because it leads again to the bonding and understanding of the community. And, I do not feel hesitant to state here that if these, our land and our environment had been left to the ethnic groups, today we would have been much better off. So much of destruction would have not happened because the connection that the ethnic communities, the so-called tribals that we use the word tribal even today, unconsciously or consciously, the kind of bonding that the ethnic communities have with nature, that is something that, urban people like us can never imagine to develop. So had the land and the environment been left to the ethnic communities, we would have been somewhere else.
Absolutely, yeah, completely agree on that. Of course, I've got a whole lot of questions based on what you said, but I think it's also time we invite a dialogue with the audience. Poonam already have a hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for that. That was really interesting. So
thank you.
There are several things I want to say. I always have a lot to say. So one is I've always wondered about, the women. So I'm just going to say Northeast. I'm sticking to the same. Yeah. They're just so well turned out. I mean, you look at them and you just think, okay, everyone is just so gorgeous, you know. I mean, even from the girls. So we live on a farm, and we have 4 families staying here. So one is from Karnataka. So I'm in Bangalore, and 2 are from the Northeast, and from Assam, and from the Darjeeling. You know, somewhere there, some little this thing. In fact, my husband went and they had a wedding sometime back. So, you know, he got to go there and see how they did the wedding. And I just feel there is, so the big thing is there is such a large sense of community. We had gone for the Hornbill Festival 3 or 4 years back. I mean, it's just, I think everybody just needs to go and see that. It is just spectacular, you know, the color, the whole thing. But also the fact that they have people coming in from all over the world. You know, from Nagaland, but who are living, because a lot of them, I think, are living in England, and there's been a lot of like migration and stuff. And they all come back over Christmas, and they all come back during this period to be with their family. And, you know, so you hear people with these British accents and American accents, and then they are all wearing these traditional dresses, and it's just so nice. And they all have this huge feast, you know, where they cut. So there's a lot of meat. So they, you know, they're cutting the pigs, and the company sits in this huge community kitchen, and they're all cooking together. They all eat together. They offered us food. So that was one of the things that really struck me, was the sense of community, you know. And then on another trip, we had also gone to Arunachal. We did Assam, Kaziranga, Mizoram. We did this whole. So we've been to the Northeast like 3 or 4 times. And I really wonder for the people, how is it to come and live here, firstly? You know, firstly, a lot of, Bangalore is still very green, but lots of parts of India are very barren and dry. And you're coming from this place which is very green, abundant. And then you're coming into this, you know, this landscape almost like a desert, large parts of India like this. Firstly, this must be like a culture shock. Secondly, for the women, you know, coming from a place like, so when we'd gone for that Christmas party, somebody, you know, it was out on the street. And till 1 o'clock, you know, all the girls were there wearing skirts. Everybody was there. First time, this was a few years back. And my first thought was, you know, they're alone. Are they safe? And then you see the way they are. There's no eve teasing, there's nothing. And then my daughter, at that time, she was about, I think, 16 or 17. She wanted to stay back and listen to the music. And we wanted, you know, I was tired. I wanted to go back. And then we were thinking, okay, can we leave her? Like, so if we were in Europe, I would have left her. You know, it was not a big deal. In Delhi, I wouldn't even think of it. You know, I mean, I would never leave her out this thing. But somehow there, it was okay to do it. And, you know, I just felt safe doing it. That she could be out, listen to some music. She had a drink. And so there was that part of it. You know, when I see girls in Bangalore, they're so well dressed. And then you have like the local guys or whatever looking at them. I mean, I'm just wondering what they think. And so on the other part, I just want to say, like, this is something that happens all over India to everybody. It's not to people only from the Northeast. We are feeling that. When I moved to Bangalore the first time, I was, I guess because of my color or whatever, I was really stared at. I mean, this was about 25 years back. And the truck driver would stop and blow his horn, and they would, you know, so it was just stuff like that. So I think wherever you are different, you get, and also some habits may be a little different. Like maybe I would wear, you know, not a salwar kameez, I would wear trousers, and it would get remarked upon. And it was different. It took a long time to accept that it's not me. It's just because I'm different, you know. And I think the biggest fault has been, I would put the fault very squarely on the education system. That we lived in Singapore for a couple of years, and there, you know, every day you're being droned with Indians are Singaporean, Tamilians are Singaporean, the Brits, the Malay, the Chinese, we are all Singaporean. At some level, they are putting it, and it makes a difference. So when Saraswati and Tapan came to work with us, so I started that, I left that thread somewhere. So two of the families are from the Northeast. And when Tapan and Saraswati came to stay with us, I remember Ratna was saying that, oh, I think they are Chinese. And I said, Ratna, what are you saying? Firstly, how can somebody be Chinese and they can't come and, you know, work here? And this, of course, they're from the Northeast. And like you said, like took out the map, show them this area. And I see the difference now that, everybody is friendly. They've called them to their home. There's this. So I think the thing starts with like very little things. I think somewhere they just don't know. I mean, if you get a person from Kashmir coming here, they'll say it's a foreigner. So it's. I don't think it's to do with the Northeast Indians per se. It's to do with anything that's different, whether it's an eating habit, whether it's the way we dress, it's anything. So I don't think that should be. Because I don't think it's a personal thing. It's hard to say to a person who is laughed at because he's got his hair turned blonde. But now, one of the boys, Saraswati's son, he's about 18 years old, and he made his hair blonde and that spiky, funny thing. And first couple of days, I was a little nervous because I felt going out, I don't want somebody in the village to, make a comment or make a thing like that. But now you see all the local guys have got blonde hair, so somewhere that, that thing happens, the thing spreads. And I think everybody has to play like a little part in saying that, how am I making a difference? How am I promoting this thing? And I think that's important. And the last thing I wanted to add is I saw a very nice film on Netflix. I don't remember the name. It's about these 6-7 young people from different places in the Northeast coming, and they stay in Delhi. And it was like one of the girls get married, and they show the infighting little bit, the quibbling even between them. The one from Assam as to the one of them wants to them to cook beef, and the other one doesn't like it, but it's her marriage, so they decide to do it. And it's the same. It was a really sweet movie, and so maybe through music, because I mean, when you look at people from that side of India, they're so well turned out, and you look at the work ethic. I think we can't compare it to the work ethic with most parts of India, because they're extremely honest, hardworking. If you give an instruction, I see that difference. They will follow it to the T. They will not think outside the box like this, but she will do it. I've told her, do this, do this, do this. It'll be done when I come back. And I can leave my bag. I mean, it's like, I don't find that level of honesty with, it's hard. I mean, it's there, So there are many things really positive and really that, and it's, we just have to learn it within ourselves to embrace all those kinds of diversities, which I think we have never done. It's a new country. I mean, not to make excuses, because I think we've screwed up on too many things, but it's been 70 years. It should not have been like this now, because I feel in many ways the minerals, a lot of the resources we have taken out from the Northeast, we have not given back to them, whether it's in terms of roads. Many of the kids we went there, they said that the drug abuse is so rampant that almost every young kid is taking drugs. It shouldn't be like that, just because the border is from that side. And I don't think we gave back even a minuscule of what we have taken from there. Having said that Hornbill which we went to, Modi had come there, he made many promises. I don't know what's happening, because sometimes progress means taking away the indigenous culture and the land and putting a factory there. And maybe that's not what's needed. Definitely. What is needed is, how do you develop, they have such interesting with the weaving, there's a lot of really interesting stuff there. So rather than, let's build a highway, let's, put 5 factories, that's not the answer. And
yes, and so true. So
but you come from one of the nicest parts of India, so don't let all this stuff bog you down. I mean, it's like each state is so best butter paneer I've eaten in Assam. Eating every day butter. Really good one. Yeah.
Yes, what you said, so true. And I think the movie that you're referring to, in fact, I was coming to that towards the end of my, discourse. I think it's a movie by the name of Akhuni, is it? You come across, it's Axone.
Yes.
Yes, actually, it's not Exone, it's Akhuni. It's a Naga word.
Yes.
They have this, it's a fermented beans dish, it's
and
very...
they put beef in it.
They do.
That's the one. Then that's the one she had to cook.
They
Apuni, yeah.
they cook it in different ways. It's a beautiful movie, you know. And another thing which I'd like to point out here is that, Rupini, when I said in the very beginning that the Northeast is a conglomeration of, you know, all these different states with different cultures, please believe me, in the Northeast also, you know, not all the 8 states know about each other completely.
Yes, yes.
You know, so the thing is that when I have students coming from Arunachal Pradesh, when I have students coming from Nagaland, I always tell them, please mingle with each other. Please share your ideas with each other so that you get to know each other. And most of them have these aspirations of going to study in Delhi. One thing which I tell them is, please mingle with the locals. Try to be tolerant and try to mingle with the locals so that they get an opportunity to understand you. Only then they will be able to accept you, you know. But the you know, the sad part is that for that understanding and that acceptance to be there, Rupini, you have to open a door, you know. If you close the door and you abuse the person outside the door without even opening the door, that understanding will never come, that acceptance will never come. I always try to inculcate that to my students. My own brother studied in Ramja's college in Delhi. He had, you know, English major. He was there as a student. And he only had, you know, beautiful things to recount of his time in Delhi. And an Assamese boy from Guwahati, he became the captain of the Ramjas cricket team. So, you know, I mean, we have those kind of stories also. You know, I have most of my friends, my best friend, two of my best friends are in Delhi, you know, right now. So they also have, you know, very beautiful experiences there. But yes, the one thing which Poonam, you talked about is that, you know, with people from other parts of India, it's difficult to make you out unless and until you know, you talk to that person, then you come to know that you're from Seoul.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the people from Northeast, the difficult part is because of your Mongoloid looks, you already stand apart, you know.
Right.
You are already something stared at, you know, just because of your looks, you stand apart. And that is where that, you know, discrimination starts. That is the saddest part. Yes, I do understand the point that you're trying to make, that, you know, everyone goes through some kind of, or the, or other of, you know, racial thing or discrimination. But with the Northeast people, I guess it's a little bit more aggravated because of the looks. And of course, I have come across people who refer to the food, ye log to sab kuch khate hain. I mean, and those very people, when they go abroad, they find their food exotic. People standing in the Bangkok streets are eating all kind of insects there.
Cockroaches.
Yes, and everything becomes exotic. And in the Northeast, everything becomes chi-chi. What is this attitude here?
There was one more really nice movie about this boy. He goes to college in Delhi. He's a very good, I think, soccer player.
Okay.
And how they don't let him come on the team because he came a day late or something like that. And then he manages, he's really, really good. And how he manages to get in the team, but there's a lot of bipartisan, there's all that stuff, and they don't let him, you know, how they get him out. Have you seen this film? It was actually a mainstream film because it had, the cast was like Bollywood cast. And how he's a really positive guy, you know, and the other guy who's from Manipur in his college, he says, just leave them. All these people are like that. They will always push you around. And then this guy says, no, that's not my experience. And once Sardarji becomes his friend, and how they stand by, and in the end, he becomes the captain of the team and actually ends up representing, I think, India or something like that.
Yeah, I think that there was a movie based on Bhaichung Bhutia's
Exactly.
life.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name. Yeah, but it was based on Bhaichung Bhutia's
Very
life.
nice movie. Yeah. Really nicely done. And so maybe that's the way, you know, forward. It's like saying everybody South America, because my husband's from Andhra, and I remember even when I got married to him, everybody was saying Madrasi se shaadi kar li hai. And it was really embarrassing because firstly, I mean, Madras is not, and he's from Andhra. But I mean, these were my relatives who were saying it, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and drawing upon that, you know, one thing that I like, so I mean, first of all, I should say, like, thank you so much for like holding this platform. And the other thing is like for sharing these nuances. I mean, this is probably the first discussion of like the ones we've had so far. I've actually taken notes, and I'm like, I'm going to make points of what I want to share, because I mean, see, when you talk about the Northeast, I guess discrimination is something, at least for me, that's what like hits me most. But just a minute. Yeah, but I mean, going into those nuances, right, and like so much of detail of where all that discrimination comes to play, it's like it's so sort of, it stares at you there. So thank you for taking us through this. And I think drawing, like, one thing that I sort of came to my mind, like taking both of your conversations together, is I think these sort of differences that we hold, it's very common even to others, like exactly this Madrasi thing, how the entire South is like referred to as Madras. Or even when you talk about the lack of mention in history, for instance, when I grew up in Pune, so when I remember like my history classes in school, I used to think, okay, like, was the independence or like contributions towards the independence not made from the South? Because I don't really sort of, except for these very, like, some of the very prominent names, you don't really hear about the Southern contribution, or even about, like the fact of, the bias about being assigned homes. Like, there's a lot of religious angle also involved to that when you sort of, think about getting a home or getting a girl getting a home. But all of these, like in all of these, I think the importance that what is missing is that when you talk about people from the Northeast, from like different states of the Northeast facing these issues, that is not given importance. So, when you talk about, say, like a person being denied a house because it's because of religious reasons, like that might be given more importance rather than when you say, okay, like because of my facial distinctions, there was discrimination against me. So even in discrimination and the sort of voice that is given to it, from like, what I could recollect based upon the experiences that you shared, there's still like neglect even in that, neglect even in recognizing that yes, you were discriminated against, or that the Northeasterns are discriminated against. That is something that I feel is, that's worrisome.
That's true.
And even that's the unconscious aspect of it, right? That we don't, religious discrimination is spoken about. This is not even spoken about.
And I don't know, maybe it's like the people, I have cousins who moved to England, like, 50 years back, and how they would always keep their heads down and they would not really speak up. But when you see their kids being born there now, that they have got an education there, they, they can speak out because they don't feel the need to fit in or to hide. And I think that also is somewhere, because a lot of the people, the whole migration which is happening from the Northeast into, very basically, there are no, after lower school, there are no schools there. When we went to Mizoram, there was nothing there. The kids had to leave. And I'm just thinking, how does a 17, 18-year-old go to a completely different culture, live there? It must be really daunting, for the parents to say, Acha, Delhi mein, go and stay in Delhi. It's like a big bad city. It's scary, but what, you don't have a choice. So I think all along, it's like you're taught to keep your thing down so that you don't invite trouble. Because if you say something out, you're beaten up or something is. So, it's a very systemic way of just keeping everything down. And I think, because when I see it with these two boys here now, Sanjay and they're different. They have a different kind of confidence, and they speak the local language. So somewhere there is also the thing of integration, not to take away from us that we are racist. This we have to say, not only to do with color, religion, on many things. We are all, anything that's different from us, we find it hard to accept. But I think the change comes back. But like you're saying, it has to be brought out. And we must call it out. When we see it, it's to say it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's not right. A lot of times we don't. We just keep quiet. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the general attitude is that ye unka problem hai. That is the general attitude.
Right.
You know, it's their
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
you said, Poonam, that yes, I totally agree with you. That which I always try to, you know, tutor my students. When you go to a place, you know, try to learn the local language.
Yeah.
That would help you to build a bridge with people. You know, that will
Yeah.
automatically bring a connection. Make an
Yeah.
effort, may go out of your way to learn the language. It will change your dynamics with the local population.
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
not remain isolated. I tell my, you know, when I have this, I have so many Naga students, I have Arunachali students. I tell them that when you have your dues, you know, when you celebrate some festival, you know, call your local
Yeah.
friends to your festivals.
Yeah.
Let them see what your culture is. At least you go out of your way. पहली बार शायद नहीं आएंगे, अब दोबारा बुलाओ, 3 बार बुलाइए, maybe the 4th time they'll come, you know. So don't shut them out of your life. You know, you have to make an effort from your side as well. But yes, having said that, Rukmini, that effort has to come from both sides.
Both
You know?
ways. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think now, like today, you know, you spoke about inviting people to like come to the Northeast because of, you know, the richness that it has to offer. I guess my concern is that today people want to go to the Northeast only for that. So Northeast is something which is, you know, beautiful, which is like a holiday destination. But then when it comes to like speaking for the people or, you know, speaking about the people, like spreading good things about the people, you're not bothered about that, because all that you care for is like your 5 days of vacation, seeing exotic places, clicking good pictures. That's all that you care about. Like, then later on, you're like, I mean, we don't like, that's their problem. That attitude is like not correct.
So somehow as a country we seem to have held it as a resource, and it's treated just as that. The human aspect of it is somehow forgotten. It's a resource, it's beautiful, there's oil there, there's coal there, and we use it for that. But
I know.
What about
it's like
the rest of it?
Pangong Lake after that movie, right? It's a mess now.
Right.
I mean, it's like, you know, so at some point I feel like it's just so beautiful, it should be just left, because it has a great spiritual value. The energy you feel when you go there is like, you know, body's buzzing, like, you know, it's like it's great, and you don't want to take that away.
That is true.
Either,
Anyway, I'm noticing the time, and we're kind of towards the close of it. Well, for those of you who are here, definitely there is this request, but also for those of you who are watching this later, my request would be, and I'm echoing Sangeeta's words here, please be curious. I think that's a starting point for truth and reconciliation. Be curious about your own attitudes
and
around.
Yes, that's what I'd like to make a request, that when you see something wrong is being done to anyone, you know, please speak up. You know, try to protest against it. You know, it's, I mean, do not turn your face away. I mean, that's so wrong, right? I mean, that's all I can, you know, request to people out there, you know, the people from the Northeast with all their Mongoloid looks, their different style, way of, you know, dressing, their food habits. We are Indians.
And I think as Indians, we should probably first learn to accept people who are already ours before we want to sort of, you know, open ourselves to even more like others.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, as we're trying to globalize, I guess we've not Indianized enough.
Right.
We need to do more of that before we go out in the world. So yes, the request is stay curious about your own attitudes. Ask people where they are from before making assumptions about them. And very importantly, have this conversation in your circles. I mean, ultimately, that's what dialogue is about. It is about creating a ripple effect. So please do share the information that you gain from this dialogue out in your world. And that's that. And of course, Sangeeta, thank you so much for turning up as the gorgeous you all the time, and for sharing what you did today. It's really valuable.
It was a beautiful experience for me also. Thank you, Poonam and Rohini, for being there. And Rukmini,
Thank you.
thanks a lot for the platform.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.